This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. Lakshmi Jain. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, I'd like to welcome you up to this online meeting. Please take a moment to review the guidelines for this online meeting posted in the chat window. I now request the moderator, Mr. Lakshmipathy, to introduce the speaker and start the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rajini. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Lakshmipathy. I'll be moderating this meeting. Agricultureinformation.com likes to welcome to this meeting Mr. Platosan Samarasam, Managing Director of Zuva Organic Farms Private Limited, Tirunelveli, Tamil Nadu. Mr. Platosan Samarasam will be speaking on the topic, My Experiments with Moringa. I now request the speaker to begin. Can I request Mr. Soundarajan to mute his mic, please? Yes, Mr. Patterson, you can proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to call me and host me in this webinar. Very briefly, I was told I should share probably in about 20 to 30 minutes my speech, which will be followed by a question and answer. So if that is the format, so I will try and keep my speech as minimum as possible. So I am a biotech engineer. I studied biotechnology in Anna University, Chennai, in the Gindi campus. After which, in Bangalore, I did my MBA in Xavier Institute of Management and Entrepreneurship, XIME, Bangalore, in the Electronic City. And then after that, after many years, I think after graduation, I decided to start a farming company. And so I'm not going into why I decided, because of the paucity of time. But in this speech, I will restrict myself to what we did with the crop moringa, right? And parallelly, what I will try and impart in the next 20-25 minutes is what should anybody wanting to start a commercial scale organic farming do? So these two will go parallel with each other. In fact, I have taken the template of how to do organic farming successfully, applied it to moringa, and then that is what I'm going to present as my experiments with moringa, right? So that is going to be my speech. Zua Organic Farms Private Limited. Are you able to see the screen move? Right. So yes. Zuva Organic Farms Private Limited was started in the year 2015. Zuva itself means prosperity in an African language. Today we have over 250 acres of cultivation in and around Tirunelveli, a small town in Tamil Nadu. We started the company in Bangalore, but because our farms were all in the south of Tamil Nadu, we moved to Tamil Nadu as well. These are our learnings, right? So if you really want to do a successful farming, then you need to apply what I call as the success mantras of farming. The first is you need to explore a product which you think has a market potential. There is no point doing farming in a commercial scale. See, if you're doing it for sustenance or livelihood, you can do farming whatever you want to do. But if you want to do it as a business in a more commercial scale, I think then you need to explore some of these points that I'm going to throw forward. One is look for a product that has market potential. Second is look if the product is amenable to value addition, and is there a scope to export if the need be, right? So looking for a product which has market potential, then look for a product that also has some kind of value addition possibility, and does it have an international market if the need be. And third, you need to explore and see how can you do the same farming of whatever crop you have chosen in such a way that the productivity is much higher than a typical standard traditional farmer's productivity. So that is the only way we can make farming successful. The last thing I would say is you also need to try and see how you can control the cost. let me upfront say I'm a professor of business management, and there are two ways in which you can actually make money. One way is increasing your revenue. The other way is also decreasing your cost. If you're able to do both, let me repeat it, right? So if you want to really make money, there are only two ways. One is you increase your productivity in such a way that your revenue is increasing. Revenue per acre, for example, we call it yield. The revenue per acre is increasing. And second is if you can decrease the cost per acre, then you will make money. And if you're able to do both, I think you clearly have a successful formula that um, at hand. Oh, and exactly, that is exactly what I am going to do right now. So I'm going to take you through each of these 4 points with respect to Moringa, and those were our experiments and those were our learnings from Moringa. We are happy to share more uh, at a later time as required. How the slide. Okay, market potential of Moringa. When we looked at this crop in the year 2014-15, and we were looking at what crop should we go in for, then we wanted to look for a crop that has market potential. So we applied that to our own product, and then we saw in the year 2015 the market size of Moringa trade in the world was about $4 billion. And then we wanted to know if it has a future. So we looked at it as well, and then in the year 2020 we saw this data. We were looking at it in 2015. We said in 2020 the market seems to be growing and it is expected to reach $9 billion. I think fairly we would have reached close to this figure today, and that was the big potential, and it also had good growth. India was a key player. I can, with great confidence, say probably at least 50% of the trade of Moringa came from India because it is very native to India. It is believed to have originated in the foothills of Himalayas. Some theories say probably in the south of Tamil Nadu, where I live. So that is debatable, but nevertheless, it is an Indian crop. There is no debate about that. Therefore, and there is big growth as well. We looked at who are the major markets in the country, who are the major markets outside the country. We saw what does Moringa have a potential within the country and outside the country. When I looked at outside the country, we saw West, mainly the US and Europe had big potential for Moringa, and China was a big buyer of seeds, mainly Taiwan and China. We can also include Japan and even Southeast Asia. There was big potential. Then we were looking at who are the major sellers, from where are it actually being sourced, mainly from India, but some from Philippines and Cambodia, at least to the US. A lot of things were going from Mexico and even some parts of Brazil, but we were still the biggest player. So clearly we saw that Moringa as a crop has potential. Then we wanted to have an idea of what is the price range in which these products are being sold. What are the products that are there and what are the price range? So I'm just throwing it at you. We looked at both conventional, which means inorganic way of farming, and organic way of farming. And we saw what is the market rates of Moringa products in the market. So I'm talking about prices that a farmer is able to realize, right? Maybe if you're a manufacturer or a trader or somebody, an exporter, you may be able to generate more than this. But even a farmer, at a farmer level, these are the kinds of prices that one can realize. So we clearly saw that one another parameter we applied at this level is how much is the fluctuation of prices with respect to Moringa. Say, for example, if I take tomato, the prices could fluctuate, say, from about 30 rupees in the more attractive side to even 50 paise a kilo. And then we said that is not the right crop to do, simply because if for some reason, if the price that we are able to realize in the market is at the lower end of the price spectrum, then we will not be able to even meet our costs. So if a product has to be sustainable, if cultivation has to be sustainable and profitable, then we need to be looking at a product whose lower end of the price spectrum is still making sense for us. Say, for example, organic leaves of Moringa at the lower end can fetch me about 110 rupees. I don't need 200 rupees. Even if I get 110 rupees, does it make economic sense to me as a farmer? And that's the point that we applied to. And we saw that Moringa and most of its product, even the lowest end of the spectrum, it held very well. So we chose Moringa and we decided to move ahead. So then we looked at what is the value added potential of the product Moringa, and do we have an export market? So because Moringa, I think, is not a new topic to you, I'm assuming. So I'm not going to delve into the different types of value added potential. I'm just going to give you an overview. So Moringa as a tree, for example, almost every part of Moringa can be used. We actively use seeds and parts and flowers and root and leaf. Bark is the only thing. Even from the bark, we even use the gum. So individually, even as private company, we are already using almost the whole plant. And then we saw from different parts of the plant that there are medicinal uses, there are human uses, then there are applications in agriculture, applications in animal husbandry, applications in water purification, for example, and application in cosmetic industry, in and precision industry, and so many uses. So because this presentation is not about Moringa, so I'm not going to talk about specific uses. In the question answer session, if you have a specific question about any particular use of Moringa, I'll be happy to answer. So I will move forward for the paucity of time. The second key thing that we wanted to solve, so we understood Moringa has a potential. We also understood that it is amenable to a lot of value addition, and we saw that the prices were attractive. So then we wanted to know, how do we really go about doing Moringa? And because productivity is an imperative that needs to be achieved. If you don't achieve productivity, and if you go then regular route that a typical farmer would take, I think you are not really looking at it its real potential. So we wanted to see how we can improve productivity. The first thing we did was take a tour across Tamil Nadu. We took a tour, and I and my father and my brother-in-law, we took a tour across Tamil Nadu to try and see how Moringa is grown in major areas where it is grown, including parts of Tirunelveli, parts of Theni to Palani to up to Coimbatore and Erode, and even Sivaganga. And wherever we went, we saw that probably most of the cultivations that we saw were traditional cultivations with up to 500, 600, 700 trees per acre. Then we looked at literature. We wanted to see how is Moringa perceived by the world. Is there international research done on Moringa? If so, what is the kind of recommendations they have for plantation? And then we saw that those guys on the other extreme are talking about probably 1,000,000 plants in an acre or 1 lakh plants in an acre. And what we were seeing on the field was in the stark contrast, only maximum 500 to 700 trees per acre. So we said, okay, now that we have two extremes, one theoretically what is possible through research papers that we read in Africa, and practically what we saw in several farms across Tamil Nadu and Gujarat. And then we said, we discussed with our agri experts, and then we said, let's do a pilot commercial scale Moringa plantation in a new way. And that's how we started our 10-acre farm first of Moringa. So what are the key areas of differentiation which helped us improve productivity? That I'm going to discuss it briefly for the benefit of the participants, right? So first thing we said is, instead of 200 to 700 trees, can I do 10,000 trees an acre? So when we decided to 10,000 trees an acre, then in 2015 we said maybe in last one when we did drip irrigation. So in the last one valve of the drip irrigation, we said, can we increase the density to beyond 10,000 trees per acre? And then we decided to do that. So about 4.5 acres is about 10,000 trees per acre, and then the last half an acre or 40 cents is much denser cultivation. We did, I think, if I remember correctly, maybe around 25,000 plants per acre. And then we wanted to see which is doing better, right? So I'll come back to that. So then we also looked at what a traditional farmer is able to achieve. Usually, farmers in Tamil Nadu do not harvest, they do not plant Moringa for leaves only. I'm talking about 2015. But now they have. But when we were looking at it, not many serious, maybe one or two people were already in that business seriously. Rest of them were having a Moringa plantation where they harvested pods, they harvested seeds, they also harvested leaves. But more serious ones, when we looked at what was their productivity, we were looking at if I consider 5 harvests is possible in a year on an average, theoretically up to 8 is possible, but 5 is definitely practically possible. So if I look at 5 harvests, we were looking at about 150 kilograms per acre per harvest. So that's about 750 kilograms per acre per year of dried leaves, dried moringa leaves, was the yield that a traditional farmer was having. When we adopted ultra dense cultivation from 10,000 trees per acre and a little over that, we realized that we could do much more than a traditional farmer. We were able to get up to 425 kilos of dried leaves per acre per harvest. So approximately 2.2 to even up to 3.5 tons of dried moringa leaf per acre per year we were able to achieve simply by tinkering with density and a little bit of inputs. So we went on with a sprinkler or drip irrigation. Most of our farms have a drip irrigation because very dry region, we didn't want to waste water in sprinkler, but it comes very well in sprinkler as well. We have seen that. Then we were looking at inputs. One of the biggest constraints that a serious organic farmer has is inputs. Um, there are many schools of thoughts, right? I am not against any school of thought. In fact, I embrace all schools as long as it is making sense for me commercially. So I'm not really against any school of thought. So there is zero budget farming, and Nammalwar has his own things, and there's so many schools of thoughts. So I'm not getting into that. What I saw when I have an organically certified farm, unless I have cows of my own and I'm able to manufacture my own inputs, I think it is going to be difficult. So, and we were looking at least doing 100 acres. So, which translates to probably, I don't know, 50 cows or 100 cows, which we needs to be managed. That's a whole uh, a difficulty by itself. So we went for standardized organic inputs, and we were looking at 1,500 rupees cost per month per acre. And we said that is not really affordable unless we are able to bring down the cost somehow. I think we are not looking at a real jackpot. So we decided to work on that, and we discovered that nano inputs can actually help reduce the cost. And because the size is nano, I think you know what is nano. Nano is 10 to the power of -9, which means it's so small. It is 1,000 times smaller than your hair. Your hair is a micron level, so it is about 1,000 times smaller than your hair. And it is so small that it will, like a bullet, get into the tissues of the plant. So we went for nano inputs, and when we went for nano inputs, we did two things. One is we standardized our inputs. Second is we went full outright nano inputs. Okay, here is a packet that I'm showing in the video. If you're able to see the video, this is nano inputs for 1 acre. I can put it in my front pocket. So if you have a front pocket, you can put it inside that. This is nano inputs for 1 acre and about 50 grams in weight. We were able to reduce the cost. And today we are looking at around less than 200 rupees per acre per month. And so from 1,500 to 200, that's already a lot of savings, which translates into cost savings for us, which translates into profit. So we did drip irrigation, and if you're asking how do we go into a farm which is so dense, we said why do you need to go into a farm? Everything that you need is applied through drip. The only time you go into a farm apart from harvesting is when you need to apply pest control in case there is a pest attack and you need to do something about it. Then that's the only time you go into it. So what we did is every third row we left one row unplanted, so it becomes easy for us to go into the farm and try and spray. The last thing that we did to enhance our productivity is slowly move from sun dried to solar dried to more sophisticated dryings. And today, I think as we speak, we are installing an automated solar dryer imported from Australia, which can dry moringa at very specific temperatures and humidity. I think in a month or so we should be done with that. So by doing all this, what we were able to do is increase the productivity. So we started with ultra dense cultivation, standardized inputs. Why did I say that? Again, I'm just showing another input that we use in the video. This is a 1 acre dosage. My idea was simple. If I am there in the farm, then I can clearly tell him this is only about 50 grams needs to be applied, and you don't need to apply more than that, and then probably help measure 50 grams. But if I ask one of my farmer, one of my supervisors or one of my laborers to do it, they will get confused. So we decided to go in for a 1 acre standard packing. Any product that we use is packed in 1 acre packing. So I have some inputs which is only 5 grams per acre to, I think the biggest input that we have is about 250 grams per acre. So depending on what I use, it is always one packet equivalent to 1 acre, just to standardize and make it easy for our farmer. The next biggest puzzle that we were trying to solve is how do we optimize cost. Unless we optimize cost, I think we are heading nowhere. So here, I think what I said is here. So we were able to reduce it. It was a little over 1,200 actually, to about 175 rupees per acre. And that was done primarily by shifting to nano inputs and then standardizing the periodicity of application. Most of the people we talk to, or if you're getting your advices from people who sell agri inputs, obviously they're going to ask you to apply more. So we experimented it ourselves, saying that if I give once in 15 days, what is the result? If I give once in a month, what is the result? And then we said, is it really practical to give once in a month? Is it practical to give once in 45 days? So those kind of experiments, and then we standardized saying once in a month is good enough, and it serves the purpose. So by this kind of standardization, we reduce the cost, and so okay, whatever I speak is here, and the number of applications we reduced it to only one time in a month. So it becomes easy. So once in a month you apply a fertilizer, and then you wait. Then you just monitor it and expect that things go well. If something does not go well, then immediately you act upon it, right? So when I think in the question and answer session, I'm sure you will have questions on how we tackle the caterpillar, for example, or how did we tackle yellowing of leaves, for example, or what else did we do? Any questions I can answer specifically. So I'm not talking about that now. But drying was a big problem. Drying is a big quality problem actually. So there is times I remember where we lost the entire 10 acres to pest. That is because we didn't know how to control it organically, which means we had to be on our toes and keep inventing new ways of addressing existing problems. We cannot be satisfied with having solutions, right? So we kept inventing. So our drying technique also, according to whom we sold and for what we sold, kept changing. So if when we were selling it to local traders, we did sun drying, and when we were selling it to a little more sophisticated, say an agri processing person or a farmer, then we did solar drying. And now we are trying to move towards export, and we are doing export, but more we are trying to incline more towards export and pharma grade Moringa products. And there we need a more advanced automated solar drying. Typically, the best temperatures to dry is between 35 degree to 45 degrees, the best temperature to dry Moringa, where the nutrients are intact. And that can be achieved, cannot be achieved through a normal solar dryer. But if you have sophisticated solar dryers which can control temperature and humidity, you can do it. So towards the last part of my presentation, before I show you pictures of my farm, okay, I kind of learned how to produce. I also learned a little bit about how to reduce my costs, but maintaining quality is a big problem when it comes to organic farming, right? So what are the quality parameters that we need to be aware? One is you need to be organic every time. What is the meaning of that? Though my farm is certified organic, we have got it certified from Lacan, German certifying body, which has presence in India. We still need to prove that we are organic every time we harvest. So every month, invariably, we are harvesting, which means every month we need to get our product tested in a reputed lab. In fact, the lab most of our clients ask us to test is in Bangalore. It is called Eurofins in Whitefield. They have a facility for testing, and each test costs us around 20,000 rupees. So which means it's an expensive affair. You cannot test if you have 100 kilos. It is pointless. So the minimum quantity you can test when you want to go for a test is about at least 2 tons, they say. 1 ton is still okay. If you have 2 tons of final produce, then you could actually go for testing, because otherwise it is cost prohibitive. 20,000 rupees for 2 tons itself translates to 10 rupees per kilo. It is already added to your cost. So our logic is we test it, we prove it that it is organic, and then the first thing we ask our buyers to do is reimburse the cost of testing. If we fail the test, then the buyers don't need to give anything to us. They are happy to leave us to find our own ways. The second problem with organic, or the thing you need to keep in mind, is you need to get your farm certified. Just practicing organic is good, but it is not good enough when you're trying to do it in a large scale. When you're trying to export or add value, I think you need traceability. So you need to have get a TC, which means your farm needs to be certified. So that is something that takes 3 years, and it is painstaking documentations and all that. So that is another things that we had to learn. The third thing is microbial contamination, especially if you're looking at pharma grade and if you're looking at export, then microbial contamination is a big issue. Locally, I think it probably is not a big issue, but when you're trying to export, it is a big issue, and which means the best thing to do is eliminate microbial contamination at source. The second best that you can do is do gamma irradiation. Some clients may not want you to do it. In that case, you do not have a choice, but otherwise, you could do gamma irradiation. In Bangalore and Hyderabad, you have facilities to do gamma irradiation, and you could do it there. The next thing is controlling temperature and humidity so that your color and nutrient is intact. If you allow moringa to dry beyond 45 degree, you may lose color. Prolonged drying will definitely bring the color. And second is, if it is not appropriately dried, say about 6 to 7% moisture has to be there. It has to be, the moisture has to be brought down to 6 to 7%. If you have more moisture, again the color will degrade once you have packed it. So you need to be careful about how much moisture is there. Either you use a sophisticated equipment, or by practice you can find out if that drying is appropriate enough or not. Okay, so okay, so I think I have 3-4 minutes, so within that I will finish my talk. So we have now started doing uniform drying using technology enabled. I said we have imported something from Australia, right? So using that, we are trying to um, dry it more uniformly and consistently deliver every time. Okay, in the whole equation of what we wanted to do, if you really need to sustain, then you need to probably have a model. So that I will present, and then I will show you some pictures. I think that's it. So what we did is we looked at the whole spectrum of the value addition chain of farming, which starts with the seeds inputs to production, post-harvest, processing, and exports. And we said, unless we have some foothold in every part of the value chain, I think we will not be able to succeed. So today, we have our own agri inputs, which we use it for ourselves. And if somebody needs, we are happy to provide, but we are not actively retailing it. We are only happy to provide anybody who wants it. Second is we are also into production and post-harvest. We even offer that as a service to others. We are into processing. We make about 45 different types of value-added products with Moringa in collaboration with our sister concerns. We do export to Germany, Australia, and France, to Singapore, and to South Korea in small extent. And the whole thing, I think, worked for us because we had a model farm where we could experiment. We could experiment on the density. We could experiment on the type of fertilizers and inputs we need to use. We could experiment on the frequency and the like. And this is more like a farm school that we're looking at. Is not necessarily a formal setup, but more like we are willing and happy to share with anybody. In fact, the last 2-3 years, the Moringa tour that was organized in South India always finished with our farm, where we spend a couple of hours teaching people who are entering into the Moringa stream how to do it. So if you are interested, you're more than happy to come and visit our farm. So I'm just in the last minute or so, I'm going to take you through pictures of our farm, so you get to see how our farm is. Um, so this is how we started it.
Mr. Patterson,
Yes, sir.
your going is very good. You can take another 5 to 10 minutes also, no problem. Let it be comprehensive. It will help the
Sure.
participants also. No problem.
Definitely, definitely. I will also love to spend a little more time on the
Yeah,
questions.
we can take another 10 minutes also, no problem.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
In fact, typically we apply up to 10 tons of farmyard compost, composted farmyard manure. So cow dung and vegetative matter is composted, and then we apply up to 6 to 10 tons per acre. I mean, we do it even before we lay the drip. and then we originally started with distance between laterals at 4 feet. Now we have brought it down to 3 feet between these two laterals, these two black pipes. No, they call laterals in drip irrigation. So the distance between them is now approximately 3 feet. This is the photo you're seeing is 4 feet. And moringa we sow is through seeds. Approximately 1 kilogram of moringa seeds has about 2,500 seeds approximately. So we were doing 25,000 plants per acre to 30,000 plants per acre. So you can imagine we need about 7 to 8 kilograms of seeds minimum. And we sow the seeds at a depth of your thumb, right? So approximately 4 centimeters, 5 centimeters. You don't need to dig a pit. You don't need to create any of these things. If you're doing ultra dense cultivation, if you're trying to do normal farming with only about 1,000 trees, then I think they recommend that you can dig a 45 centimeter into 45 centimeter into 45 centimeter pit, put some compost inside, then put soil over it, and then plant on the soil, not on the manure. Right, so that's the standard practice. But when you're doing it at this density, it is impossible to do it. So now we directly sow in the soil. Ours is a very porous soil, so we don't need raised bed. Otherwise, you can do it in a raised bed. Sow it in the soil at the depth of your finger. You put this seed in the soil and put your finger into it. That's it. And in 7 days, it will start sprouting. In 14 days, almost all seeds would have sprouted. Then this is in about 30 days. Typically, when the farm reaches about 50 or 60 days, if you want, you can actually prune the uh, farm. You can prune it. How is pruning done? Typically, from the tip, 8 centimeters or 10 centimeters below the tip, you can use a sharp sickle or a sharp knife to diagonally prune the moringa. And the idea of pruning is the moment you prune in 50 or 60 days, it will start putting forth shoots. Practically, we were finding it difficult because when you have 10 acres and you're looking at 2 lakh trees or 2.5 lakh trees, we felt it was too much of work to prune. So in our farms, we don't prune it. You can prune it. In our farms, we didn't prune it because we said in 90 days anyway, we are going to harvest it. When we harvest it, we are pruning the entire plant. And then, so only in the first harvest, we have only 1 stick per plant. And then from the second harvest, after pruning, each plant will produce 5 or 6 sticks. And therefore, in the first harvest, our harvest is a little low. And then the second, third, and the fourth, we make up for what we lost. So we did this more for cost angle also. So this is about 6 to 7 feet height moringa in about 80-85 days. So if you go into it, of course, you are not visible. So it is over you like a forest. So about 90 days, the farm is ready to harvest. It looks like a forest. In our farm, we have about 4.5 lakh moringa trees, right? So it looks like a forest only. But once we harvest, it looks like this. I mean, this was at 10,000 density. I think this is one of the first harvests we did. Those are my 2 sons, so I always use this picture. Uh, you can see that when we harvest the entire plant. About 3 feet height, we leave the trunk and then we harvest the entire plant. And apart from the leaves, the shoot is waste. So we compost the shoot for the next compost. We compost it and use it as organic manure. I think that may be the end of it. So here is my details in case you want to connect with me. I think with that I will probably stop my presentation. If you have any specific doubts, I'll be more than happy to elaborate on any of them.
Thank you for a detailed presentation, Mr. Platosen. I now request the participants to ask their questions. We'll also be posting the speaker's contact details in the chat window so that if you don't have time to take up all your questions, you can contact the speaker separately after the meeting also. Now, moving on to the question round, I now request the participants to ask their questions. Meanwhile, can I request the speaker to kindly stop sharing the screen so that we can have a better control over the question round? Yes, nice. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Ranjit Bansali to come up with the first question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Platterson, for such a wonderful, knowledgeable presentation. For leaf powder, which are the varieties we are preferring for the higher yield? Which varieties you are recommending?
Okay. For leaf, what we started with PKM1 when we started in 2015. But of late, we discovered that probably Jaffna may be a good variety. The Jaffna variety may be a good variety because it is thicker and the leaves are slightly bigger. So we believe that it may be a good variety. But most of our farms even now have PKM1. So
Okay, okay.
PKM is the annual crop, and so it grows very fast as well. That's another reason that we chose. But the problem with PKM1 is the plantation's life will be about 5 years. You'll have to replant the farm in 5 years' time.
Okay. And for the seed purpose, which variety you are recommending for seed?
Um, I heard, I have not done seed elaborately. The seeds that we have done is mainly for germination. So we do breeder seeds of PKM1, for example. But if you're looking at seeds for oil production, I think Momax is a good variety.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
Okay, sir.
Next,
Thank you very much.
Mr. Pamati.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. I would say it's a very nice presentation, very knowledgeable one. So I am from Kadalur, Tamil Nadu near Pondicherry. Say we want to venture into Moringa. This one, it's a red soil, loamy soil in a hill area. It will be suitable. It's any specific condition for soil and water.
Yeah, a red soil, hilly area is definitely suitable. Kadalur, you don't need to worry. I think it will not be a problem. The
Yeah.
only place where you need to think twice when you uh, venture into Moringa from a soil angle is Moringa comes very well even in black soil. We have done 100, 200 acres of Moringa in Gujarat in 2016. We don't have it now, but they are doing it independently. But when we started, it came so beautifully. Only that Moringa is averse to water logging. If water stagnates, I think Moringa will decay. The plant will decay. If you don't water the plant won't die. It will survive, right? So if you're having a clay soil, black soil or clay soil, then you need to make sure that you have proper drainage system. In Tamil, we call it vadikal. So as long as you have a proper drainage system, it typically grows in most soil. The only climate that is not so good for moringa is if it is damp and wet most of the seasons of the year, right? So hot, humid, dry, ideal. Red soil, brown soil, porous soil is okay. Even black soil is good as long as you
So,
have drainage.
okay, one more question, sir. I said, if you want to plant, do you have contract for farming? So I can get the seed from you. I can supply the leaves to you.
Mr. Platos.
And can you mute? Yeah, because I'm hearing feedback loops of myself.
Dr. Gururaj Rao, can you please mute your mic? Dr. Gururaj Rao? Yes, thank you. Yes, now it will be better.
Thank you. So the question was if we have contract farming, right?
Yes.
If you are situated in and around Tirunelveli, we are more than happy to work with you. Or if you let me know where you are located, I can try and connect others in the Moringa trade with you, and you can probably explore it with them.
I said I'm from Kadalur, near Pondicherry. I'm from Kadalur.
Kadalur, we don't have farms, but we can technically advise you for sure, right? And I
Okay.
can connect you to buyers. Technically, we can advise you on how to do it, inputs and everything. We can advise you. Not a problem. You are more than happy. You're more than welcome to our farm. Come and see our farm,
Okay.
and then you can also start.
Yeah, I will
If
contact
you
you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Anand Bala.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Bladison. I have a question. When you show the lateral at every 4 feet, at what spacing you sow the seeds?
No, your mic is
I can't
off,
hear you.
Mr. Patterson. Mr. Platterson, your mic is off.
Yeah. I realized that. When we sowed the seeds, see, our laterals were at 4 feet interval, and our drip points were at 2 feet interval. Okay. In the lateral, every drip point is 2 feet interval. Between laterals, the space is 4 feet. We were sowing it at 40 centimeters gap distance between two seeds.
Okay. That,
So the way we
that less
sowed
than,
it,
is it
the
less
way
than a
we
foot and a half?
Yes, it's less than a foot and a half. In fact, we even do 1 foot. So how we sowed it is between two laterals. If two laterals are there, so in from this lateral 20 centimeters we sowed a seed. From this lateral 20 centimeters we sowed a seed because the distance between these two laterals is about 120 centimeters or 4 feet, right? So
Yeah.
20 is gone this side, 20 is gone this side. The distance between the two seeds is about 80. So we sowed a seed in between as well. So between two laterals, there are 3 plants.
Okay. The other question I have is when you start cropping at the 90th day, you leaving 3 feet from the ground, you cut off all the branch and the main, everything is cut off.
That's right. So when we start harvesting, leaving 3 foot from the ground, we chop the entire tree, all the
Okay.
branches. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then in next 45 days, it is ready for the next harvest.
Okay. Now I heard it, but I couldn't get the name of the nutrients. What you are saying about 1 packet for 1 acre? Is it available in the market, or you are marketing yourself, or where do I get it?
In fact, we manufacture it for our own use. If you're interested, we'll be happy to share it with you also.
Okay. How do I get in touch with you?
You
The
have my
speaker's
contact.
details have been given in the chat window, Mr. Anand Bala. You can establish
Yes.
contact with him and then write to him.
Yeah.
You'll be glad to help you out.
Excellent. The
Yes.
third
Mr.
question I have
Patterson,
is,
please unmute your mic. Mr. Patterson, please unmute your mic. Yes, thank you. Yes, Mr. Anand
can you
Bala?
hear me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Now, in terms of the solar drying, how complicated the technology is? You said you imported the machine from Australia. How expensive are these, and what should be the minimum size of the plant that we can? What are the sizes for a small? Because I'm experimenting on a 1.5 acre of land to see how it is, and I use the traditional method of keeping that, and I just have about 800 plants in an acre.
Okay. See, if you're experimenting, I will not recommend that you go for a solar dryer, right? You
Correct.
experiment more from the production angle, and you can do sun drying. There is market for sun dried moringa leaves in India, right? So I do not want you to invest money into any machinery.
Okay, it's no small size
You-
available because the sun drying means what? You put it in the, because every 4 feet you occupy the land with the moringa already. So you need a separate space to keep everything, right? You need equivalent
that's correct.
space to dry. Huh?
Not equivalent. What you need
Yeah.
is at least a 60 foot by 60 foot either tarpaulin, or if you have a cement um, platform, you can use either of them. We started with a tarpaulin originally, and then
Okay.
once we started seeing money, we were able to invest in a platform, and then when we saw more money, we now invested in a solar dryer. So do it progressively like that. Unless you are planning to start 50 acres at a time and you are willing to invest the money, I mean, then it is left up to you. Yeah.
Thank
How
you.
long does it take for solar the sun drying?
No, it takes only 4 to 5 hours for solar drying. For sun drying, maybe a couple of hours more. But the question is, you must start drying at least by 8:39. Then by 3 o'clock, it is dried already. The
Okay.
income per acre, I think somebody is asking, is I think there are a lot of chat questions as well. So
Now we'll
let me
go
look.
to the questions in the end, Mr. Platterson. We'll go to the
Sure.
chat with the questions in the end. Let's ask the participants, those who are interested. Next we'll move on to
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Platterson. It was a wonderful lecture on Moringa. I am from Hyderabad. I would like to ask you, there are lots and lots of medicinal uses of Moringa leaf. like saying anti-cancer, anti-hypertensive, anti-diabetic, iron rich, and any experiments conducted to prove all these claims?
Okay, see, so can you mute your slide, sir? It's coming back as a loop. Sorry. Thank you. Are there experiments conducted? Yes, there are experiments conducted. The claims that are made are based on these experiments, but have they been, have somebody got a desire for that? Have they established proofs like an allopathic in the allopathic way? No, not many. They are like turmeric is anti-cancerous. So in that sense, they have identified what we call as active compounds in Moringa. They have identified what it has. In that sense, yes. But a lot of literature is Ayurvedic and Siddha. In Siddha, my sister is a Siddha doctor. More than 200 different types of ailments, diseases, and ailments that Moringa is able to address. So this is more of our own traditional literature. But is high-end science, today's science, has Moringa been subjected to it? Yes, yes, it is. That's why it's becoming a superfood. But I, I am not sure if majority of them are used for that. We are moving towards that. That's what I would think.
That's what I would think. Okay. Well, how do I market these leaves? I have moringa trees. How do I go about marketing these leaves? To whom do I have to address for sale?
Any serious buyer in Moringa will buy from you if you have a minimum of close to a ton, 1 ton of leaves. A serious buyer. Small time traders may buy from you if you have 300 kilos, 400 kilos, 500 kilos. So if you need to have 1 ton minimum, because it's only at that output level you will be able to do testing. So anybody who's serious and wants to do serious organic business will want to do testing, and when they want to do testing, you need to have minimum 1 ton. In fact, our clients are now saying minimum 2 tons actually. So if you need minimum 2 tons, then you need to be having at least 7 acres of moringa. I didn't say that then, so I'm using this opportunity to tell you so that if you don't do 7 acres, then you won't be able to get close to 2 tons, which makes it unviable for testing, and so you will not be able to go to any serious buyer. Okay, who are the serious buyers? Well, the serious buyers are there are a lot of nutraceutical companies that buy moringa, right? And then a lot of exporters, big exporters in South. Most of them don't have farms, so which means they are entering into tie-up with others and then buying it from them, right? Only very few players like us, we also do farming and we also do export, but otherwise it's not the case. So you can go to serious exporters, and some of them even do contract farming. They give you money and seeds and things like that, and you can approach them. In Bangalore, in Bombay, in Gujarat, there are plenty of serious people. In Tamil Nadu, I think Coimbatore is more popular for moringa trade.
Thank you. Mr. Ajay Dior. Mr. Ajay Dior, before we move on to the chat window. Mr. Ajay Dior.
Thank you, Mr. Platterson. Nice to hear you. I wish to know, while doing Moringa on commercial scale, what will be the miss, whether to go for seed production or pods or for leaf, which is the most profitable or technique, or in short about the which product we should choose?
Okay, it's a good question actually, because there is no easy answer to the question. But let me try and tell you under what situation you go for which. Okay, I think that may be more useful instead of just prescribing that this is the best thing, right? The moringa leaves is very labor intensive, and not just labor intensive, but it is also you need to take care of it very much. So a lot of attention needs to be given every day. You need to monitor if there is a pest attack or things like that. So if that is the kind of attention you can give, then for every rupee that you invest in moringa leaves, you can get 3 rupees. So that's quite an attractive returns that you will get. For every rupee you invest, you get 3 rupees, which means approximately 200 rupees. Let's consider even if you get 120 a percentage of return, that's a phenomenal return. But it needs
Exactly.
a lot of attention. That's a lot of attention every day almost. But if you want to go for drumsticks, the prices of drumsticks fluctuate dramatically from anywhere between 4 to 5 rupees on the lower end to about 120 to 150 rupees on the higher end, with an average price of about 30-35 rupees. And the kind of uh, in PKM1, I think we can get up to 16 tons. So if you have a 5 acre farm and do at 16 tons, and even if you get 20 rupees, it's a worthwhile effort. The only problem with that is harvest has to be almost every 4 days or so. You cannot, in Moringa leaves, we harvest once in 45 days. The problem with pods is every 4 days, or at least keep it at a week. Every week you need to harvest. Otherwise, the pod will move from mature to, from young and succulent to more mature, and it will start becoming hard, not suitable for domestic use, meaning cooking. It is not useful for cooking anymore. So, so if you have that kind of bandwidth where you can employ people and every week take it in. Of course, you will have to sell it to local markets or send it to Chennai or other markets where you have tie-up. I think then that's not a bad business at all. But the seed business is a little tricky. In seeds, there are two types. One is oil purpose. That's not tricky at all. The other one is germination. The oil seeds are sold at around on the lower end, maybe even up to 250 rupees on the lower end, and the higher end maybe about around 600 rupees. 600 rupees is a good price if you get it. But around 250 to maybe 400 you can get it. Oil, but germination seeds maybe minimum starts at around 1,500 to 2,500 at a farmer level itself. At least 1,500 is for sure you can get. But the problem with breeder seeds or germination seeds is you must not have any Moringa farm around your farm for 1.5 kilometers, at least 1 kilometer. 1 kilometer around or 1.5 kilometers around your farm. There should be no other Moringa farm.
Even
Otherwise,
not even different
Moringa will
will be allowed
cross-pollinate. Yes.
if we have another variety surrounding our farm, will it be okay?
No, it will cross-pollinate.
Okay,
Moringa
okay.
is a highly cross-pollinating, and that's why for germination, say for example, if you're doing PKM1 breeder seeds, the moment it cross-pollinates, the seeds you get is not PKM1 anymore.
Right.
It
Okay.
has genes of PKM1, but it is not pure. So you
Right.
can expect if you're doing 100 seeds, you can expect 30 seeds or so to have shorter drumsticks. PKM1 is known for its length to 2.5 feet. You will have only 1 feet in 30% at least, and
Thank you.
then
Right.
you will lose space. No, so
Thank you.
you need to
Dr.
have a
Rajesh?
farm which is excluded.
Okay.
Dr.
Thank you.
Rajesh? Dr.
Yeah.
Rajesh?
Thank you, Lakshmipati sir. Good evening, Pradusan. This is Rajesh. That's a very great presentation from you. Sir, my question is, seeding is every half foot. What you're doing? That's all right to do every half foot. Then it will be if the tree grow up to 8 feet, then it doesn't compete with the next one neighboring plant.
Yeah, that's a good question actually.
Yeah.
We had that question when we started. We are planting not every half foot, we are planting every 1 foot, or sometimes we do even 1.2 foot, 40 centimeters, 30 centimeters, or 40 centimeters. So, nevertheless, it's so close to each other, 1 square foot will have at least 3 plants or 4 plants in the corners, so which is already very dense. So the original thinking we had was usually the trees grow like this, from they branch out. So we felt, will it not compete with each other? Will it not, the branches of one tree intermingling with another branch? Will it kind of make it messy? But you realize plants have a tendency to grow towards light, and because of that property of the plants, every stick in the farm is always going straight. There is not a single stick which is trying to go and cross with another stick. It will cross if you give the space. If you
Right, sir.
give the space, it will cross. Because you have not given the space, say for example, if this is one stem, when I have 5 sticks, all 5 sticks are growing, they originally grow sidewards and then they start growing upwards. So it bends and then it goes straight. Every stick is growing like that. We were also surprised when we experimented in 2015, saying that no, no, it is not really going to compete with each other. Having said that, when it becomes extremely dense and when it is almost near harvest, if you delay the harvest, the lower part of the leaves will not get the light, and therefore they will start turning yellow.
Right,
Right,
sir.
so you must be on the toes. So right, almost near 40-45 days, when you think it is good enough, start the harvest.
Sir, that was a fantastic answer, sir. The next question was, you said Jaffna seed, sir. The you said the one was you said Momex and that was Jaffna.
Jaffna is good for leaves.
Right,
I have not done Jaffna myself, but I have had some credible sources, friends who do it, and they say next time you do, please migrate to Jaffna, because PKM1, the advantages. In fact, somebody even asked how many, when once I do a startup plantation, how many harvests can I take? Typically, in a year, you can take up to 5 harvests. The first year, maybe maximum of 3, and up to 5 years you can take. So you can calculate for yourself how many harvests it will take. This is for PKM1. PKM1 grows fast also. I would think Jaffna also should grow fast. It should not be a problem. But I have not personally done Jaffna, but it is highly recommended.
right, sir.
Thank
So
you.
next
Thank
question,
you.
last question is before ending, sir. You got machine imported from Australia for a large scale production, and before you dry, you need to give a wash so that there will be no contamination, or just getting into the drying and getting powdered. What's the step you follow, sir?
Yeah. See, if you want to do export and pharma grade, you must wash it. There is
Right.
no second thought about it. You have to wash it and probably centrifuge it, so you remove the excess water and then dry it. Yeah.
Right, sir. So, what is the machine you imported from Australia, sir? Can I know about it, sir,
Yeah.
please?
In fact, the machine that we imported is from a company called Solar Clin.
So, solar
Solar Clin, KLIN.
KLIN, yes, sir. So, it is
So
specific for the drying of this leaves, sir.
not specific for leaves, but I think it is. Let me type that. Oh, sorry, KLIN. So I have typed it for everybody to see. To organizer only, I have put by mistake. Okay, sorry. So it can dry anything actually, right? But we have tweaked it to dry Moringa, and the one who has got the distributor rights for India is actually
Yes,
my
sir.
buyer from Germany. So if
Yes, sir.
you are interested, I think they are setting up one in my farm now. So because of COVID, it was delayed. Otherwise, by March we should have had it. Because of COVID it is delayed. They're not able to come from Australia to set it up. So they are asking us to do it. So once it is set up, I could intimate, and you are free to come and see. And if you like, I will connect you to the distributor here.
Thank you.
You are contacting you by phone is all right with you?
Usually, I respond better if it is through WhatsApp because
Right, sir.
sometimes I am also a professor, so sometimes I am in a teaching class.
Right,
So
sir.
I generally keep teaching even though I am into business. That's more of
Thank
a
you.
passion.
Mr. Shirish?
So WhatsApp is better. You can
Okay.
text me if I don't respond, and we can always fix a time to call each other.
Yes, yes. Okay,
No
Mr.
problem.
Shirish,
Thank you, sir.
before I take up
Thank you.
questions from the chat window, Mr. Shirish,
Thank you. Mr.
please ask your
Platson, this
question.
is Shirish from Hyderabad. Nice to have you on the show. I just wanted to understand a couple of things here over here. What is the rate of moringa leaves and powder in the domestic and the international market? Thank you.
What is the weight you asked? Can you
Yeah, the
please?
rate actually.
The
The
rate
rate.
you're
The
talking
rate.
about, the price you're talking about, the price. Okay. See, domestically, if I'm talking about a farmer, not for a trader, if you are a farmer and you are growing moringa and you want to sell, a good price to sell moringa dried leaves is at least 100 to 120 rupees without TC, meaning if you're not a certified farm but you're organic and you can prove it, 100 to 120 is a good price. Anything more than that, of course, is always good, but 100 to 110, 20. If you are a certified organic farm, I think the minimum price you should be selling is at least 160 to 200. I think that's a good price. Anything over and above that is good. Of course, it's good. But anything below that, I think it is not fair price. Internationally, maybe you can go up to 225. I don't want to quote it in dollars. If you're looking at an export market, and you must be at least selling at 225 rupees. That may be a good price for a leaf. For powder, maybe 300 rupees for powder internationally. Locally, powder may be around 220 rupees.
Yes, Mr. Shirish?
Yeah, thank you. Another thing, if you're looking at a contract farming through you, what is the largest or the smallest scale of land that we are looking at for a buyback thing? Thank you.
See, we do contract farming only with farms where we are able to reach in 1 hour's time. And I think that limitation was because of our past failures. We, as I said, in Gujarat itself, we did about 500 acres of farming. And we failed miserably because of inability to go and monitor. I don't want to blame the farmers. So then we decided, let's tweak the model and work in the area that's about 50 to 75 kilometers around our farms.
Okay. Let me
So
take up a question
if
from
you are
the
interested, I
Doctor,
can
let
connect
me
you
take
to
up a
somebody I
question
know.
from the chat window. Mr. Asaimam wants to know, do we expertise in moringa pods or only leaves?
We have done parts in the past, but currently we are only doing leaves and seeds.
Right. Next question from Mr. Ravi. How many harvesting can be done after plantation?
So in the first year, you can do three harvest, and it depends on when you planted it. So if you plant it right after the rainy season, then you can do up to 3 harvests in the first year, and then in the subsequent years you can do up to 5 harvests. So 5 years you can calculate it. So 20,
Thank you.
23 harvests you can
The
do.
next question is, when can we visit your farm? And how
Anytime.
to reach your farm?
So I will. So you send me a text message in WhatsApp. I will share you the Google map.
Thank
You can
you.
visit
Thank
it.
you. And what is the
But this is
income per acre?
this is the
What is
rainy
income
season.
per acre?
So if you plan to visit anytime after January is much better because you can see the farm. Now it is
Okay.
raining heavily. The
Thank you.
income I told you per acre. Minimum income is at least 1.75 lakhs to 2.5 lakhs per acre, and we spend about 60 to 70,000 rupees as cost.
Right. That's all we have from the chat window. Now moving on to the participants. Mr. Anand Balla, you have anything more to ask?
Only one last question, please. Only last
Yes,
question.
Yes, Mr. Anand.
In the dry leaves, what is the market opportunities whom we should approach?
Dry leaves. Which part of India are you from, sir?
We are in Hyderabad, and
In
we are
Hyderabad. Okay.
yes.
Maybe I will pass on contact I know in Hyderabad who purchases dry leaves.
Okay.
You can check with them. One. So just text me, and when you text me, give me your name and you mention agriculture information.com so that I immediately will be able to connect that you were part of this webinar. I will share the contact I have. But typically, it is there are traders, exporters, pharma companies, and nutraceutical companies that operate in the space. I at least know one or two in Hyderabad which already operates, and then there are many in Gujarat and Bombay. So we can share some contacts with you.
So once it is dried, you say if I start 9 in the morning and finish it by 3, and how much time between the time they come and take it or we deliver it, and how many hours it should be done?
Oh, you're talking about harvesting and delivery?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Once I
maybe
harvest and dry it, I can't leave it for a long time, right?
Right. So, unlike any other crop, because you have dried it, it has a shelf life, right? So, typically after it is dried, you are required to put it inside a low density polyethylene for low density polyethylene bags, and then put that bags into a new PP bags, polypropylene bags,
Okay.
with the white normal urea kind
Yeah.
of bags, not the urea sacks. I'm just giving an example so you're able to relate. The
Sure.
white bags. Once you do that, it will stay for, I think, the duration of harvest, you will at least take 15 days to harvest a 5 acre farm. So
Okay.
you have to anyway wait for 15 days and then do testing. And so it'll at least take 20-25 days for you to be able to sell your leaves from the
Okay.
start to selling. And it will
Okay.
stay no problem. The shelf life of dried moringa leaf is at least 1 year minimum.
Oh,
Minimum.
that's great. That's good. Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Rajesh? Dr.
Sir,
Rajesh?
sir. Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, Professor, sir, my last question was again the last final product, the fine powder and the next quality can be used for something else, sir. You definitely, when you do the powder, you'll get the two qualities.
Yes. See, not just in the powdering, even in the leaf, you may get many qualities. There may be one leaf which is extremely green, the other one which is somewhere in between, something that's almost brown. All of them can be used, right? The premium quality is used more for human consumption. The more lower qualities can be used for animal feed.
Yes,
So
sir.
if there are animal feed companies, you can even educate them about how moringa is a good source of protein, not just protein but also of vitamins and minerals, and how it will be useful for their cow and poultry and fishery, so that they can mix it in their feed when they are manufacturing it, and that maybe 40 rupees, 50 rupees, you can easily sell it easily. Minimum, I'm
Right,
saying.
right, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Now, Mr. Ajay?
Yeah, yeah, Mr. Patterson, how to eliminate the microbial contamination at source? If you want to maintain the quality, how to eliminate it at source?
Eliminating at source is quite a challenge actually, considering the Indian setup. No, the kind of thinking that our Indian farmers and laborers have. But if you still want to attempt, I think one is, once you harvest it, you have to wash it, and then
Mm-hmm.
once you wash it, you centrifuge it, and
Mm-hmm.
after it is centrifuged, then
Mm-hmm.
you cannot touch it with the hand.
Okay,
So
okay,
if there is a mechanism in which you can move directly from centrifuging to the drying, it is good. Otherwise, designate separate people with caps and gloves so that they don't touch it with bare hands. Second is, even after it is drying, in fact, the new solar dryer that we said, the dryer moves, the product doesn't move.
okay,
Let me tell
okay.
it again. So, which means if this is the dryer moves like that, right? So I can set up my whole setup in one place and move the dryer over it. It dries, and then I move the dryer out of it and collect the thing. And when I collect it, probably have some kind of protection above it, which you can quickly draw.
Thank you, sir. Hmm.
Right. Any more questions
If you
for
are not, if you are not able to do control microbial contamination at source, then the
Hmm.
next best is do gamma radiation.
Okay.
Hyderabad and Bangalore has facilities for that.
Hmm. Right.
In
Thank
Tamil
you,
Nadu,
Dr.
a new facility is coming up in Kayatha.
Thank you,
Dr.
Lakshmi.
Gururaja?
Yeah, Mr. Patterson, I have moringa trees which are about 25 years old. And what do I do? Is there still the life is left for them, or do I have to take it up and replace with a new seed?
I think 25 years is almost full life.
Okay.
So if
Can you please mute your mic? Yeah.
thank you. If you you say, for example, you have 5 acres of this, then I would recommend one by one acre you would start replacing it with the new plants, so that you don't need to uh, completely remove everything at a time. Maybe 1/5 you replace it once it grows, then replace 1/5, so that the harvest is not really affected.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Ranjit Bansali.
Yes, Mr. Platosen, for your 10 acres, this advanced solar dryer which you have bought, what is the cost of it? Can you tell?
The approximate cost is around 20 lakhs.
Okay, and what is the capacity per day it can process dried leaves?
About 250 kilograms of dried leaves, which
Okay,
is about
250
close to,
kilograms of.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
biggest restriction now is in your capacity to dry. You can harvest an entire 10 acre in one day. That is easy, but you can't dry them. So maximum you can dry is probably half a acre worth of harvest because you're limited by your drying capacity.
Okay, secondly, we did some trial with Moringa at 4" by 4". In that, we can fit 390,000 plants per acre. We even tried with 6" by 6" on small plots of 1,000 feet, then 8" by 8". And we wanted to go for mechanized harvesting with combined harvesters. Like the plant, we don't allow to grow more than 3 feet height. Then the combined harvester comes in and it chops the whole plant, and the new plant will come back from the ground again. Yeah, but as of now, we have done it still on a basic scale where organic fertilizers were not available where I was there in Uganda. So there was no input management, particularly at that time. Our farm is in Uganda, but this is the we are planning to go like 100 acres of Moringa. So once we start these trials again in a proper manner, I will need to buy those nano fertilizers which you have said. And how do you think this model is sustainable with such high density, like 200,000, 300,000 plants per acre?
Um, Theoretically, yes, I have seen studies which claim harvest of up to 50 tons of moringa per acre. Theoretically, I have done 3 tons, so which means the scope is there. Theoretically, yes, it is possible, but I have not done it myself. If you are able to do it, I have seen 1 lakh plants per acre. I've seen it in that more controlled environment. Videos of it. Somebody I know tried it, but if you are able to do it, I think nothing like that, because what we do in 100 acres, you can do in 5 acres. That's good enough.
Exactly. We were targeting 27. Some company in USA is doing. So they said you can in 4" by 4" plant density, you can get up to 27 metric tons a acre in that
Correct.
density. And
Got
secondly,
it.
the international price which we are seeing over here, there are already some foreigners doing farming into Uganda. What they are getting is around 10 to 15 dollars or euro per kilogram for organically certified moringa. So
Yeah. See,
can
that is.
such big, yeah,
See, the problem with that is, um, I don't know if you're talking about retail price or wholesale price, right? So
wholesale price,
if wholesale
wholesale.
price is $10 or $20, please ask them to speak to me. I will be happy to supply them, right? So that is
Okay.
on the more
Even in
lighter
India, I
side.
talked to two people in Gujarat. They are doing organic. They are selling at 1,200 rupees a kilogram from
Sir,
India.
it is not. I wish we'll all be able to do it, right? I know somebody who is also. We started Moringa at the same time. He has about 250 acres near my farm. He is doing Moringa. He has organic certification as well as Demeter certification. Demeter is a biodynamic certification, and he is able to sell it at 600, 700 rupees. I know that. That is because he has Demeter. Demeter is a very rare certification. And second is he is also the president of the Biodynamic Association of the country. He is also in the board of the Biodynamic Association of the world, which means he has access. He has access to places that he will be able to sell it at that price. If a farmer is thinking that he can get that, I think it'll be a huge disappointment. If you have access, I think, I mean, in 2 years' time, you'll make a killing from the revenue. So you can also try
Okay.
that.
Thank
But
you. Thank you.
generally, it is very difficult.
Thank you. One last question from a participant. I'm reading out from the chat window. We have not been able to sell oil seeds. Can you help with the buyers? Is he wants to know?
Yeah, how many kilograms are there and where is the location? If you let us know, then we can and we can try
Okay.
and see if we can connect.
Okay. I would request the person who has asked a question to write to the speaker and then take the answer. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Platoson, for answering all those questions. Thank you, participants, for posing so many questions. We have now completed the round of questions. I like to thank Mr. Platoson Samarasam on behalf of Agriculture Information for taking his time to speak with us with a very, very comprehensive presentation. I now request the organizer of the meeting, Mr. Rajini Jain, to please close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lakshmipati. I like to thank the speaker, Mr. Platosan Samarasam, for taking the time to talk with us. I also like to thank all the participants for their time. The meeting will now be closed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wish you all the best, Mr. Platoson.
Thank you, sir.